I was getting my Master of Education major in art at Tyler, and Michael was getting his uh, master of printmaking degree. So we were both in the same printmaking class, and that's where we actually met. It was a lithography class, and Michael never came to class because he was working full-time still at Container Corporation. So it was an evening class, and so he just would bring his work to a critique. And his work was just so absolutely fascinating. We all were like, "Oh, Michael, how did you do that?" We knew him in the class just briefly because he hardly ever was there working with us. He was doing his work here in the house and bringing his work to the critiques. So it was very fascinating, looking at his work. It was very abstract. It was geometric shapes that were combined in a very precise way, and his work was better than anybody else in the whole class. I mean, and we were all very much drawn to what he was doing. And so I was as well. And one time, in fact, I was doing very tight little illustrations, illustrating the George Orwell's illustration, his books, and they were very tight drawings. And at one point, I just felt like casting that aside, and The Animal World by George Orwell, with little piggies in it, and it was a very funny kind of a story, but I decided I was all finished with that, and so I just decided to take the tush and pour it right on the stone, and then pick it up and roll it around and just see what would happen. And I guess that got Michael's attention. He came up to me in the class and said, "What are you doing?" And I explained to him, and he had seen some of my work in the critiques, and so he helped me move it and move it around, and that's really how our acquaintance started in the class. And then next thing, he was asking me to see my etchings. And I lived down in South Philadelphia at the time, so I invited him for dinner, and that's really how it started. We just kept our acquaintance up, and I was drawn to the sheer abstractness and the clarity in Michael's work, and I always have been. I've been really admiring exactly what he's been doing, and trying to get his struggles with trying to get the blends exactly the way he wants to. I sympathize and so forth. I was always very interested in the process, the etchings, the silk screens, and so I would help as much as I could here in the house. I was the rack stacker for the silk screens. He would do down in the basement a certain color, and then the sheet had to be taken off and put on a rack and then dried, and then all of that one color stacked up. And so I really enjoyed being the rack stacker for Michael. So I've always just really loved his work, and then I was invited to come into this house and live here. And I've been here ever since.